Okay, so welcome all, and thank you all for joining today's webinar. So first, an introduction. I'm Charles Jamerlan, and I'm the product lead of Connect, the flagship participant recruitment platform that we here at CloudResearch have created. So in addition to the incredible data quality that we all know that Connect provides, our daily mission is to improve, to iterate, and to deliver features that we hope bring you, our beloved users, tremendous value. And so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into one of Connect's many features titled Branches. All right, so we're going to unlock the power of branches. Hey, all right. So as a researcher, are you looking to target niche populations, but are having a hard time finding them? Say you're looking for, left-handed avocado eaters, or I don't know, outer space fanatics who own black cats, right? So, a little bit extreme, but who knows? Maybe you're looking, to recruit them for your survey or your project. Maybe you're looking to recruit 2 or more groups of participants with different paths, or journeys in your survey. Although the outcome of the survey, at the end of the survey, may be the same, in terms of compensation and content, perhaps each group within your project answers a different set of questions, and you want to easily identify which participants belong to which groups. Or say you're looking to use complex and unique screening in your survey. Maybe your survey requires a combination of demographic targeting, specific combinations of questions and answers, maybe specific attention checks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And each of the various outcomes, permutations of these different scenarios require a different payment value, compensation value for those participants taking that experience. So if the answer is yes to any of these, then, Connect Branches is absolutely for you. You have participants who you don't want passing go and collecting $200, maybe you want to pay them $1 or $2. And of course, you have some participants who don't meet the criteria you're looking for your project. And then of course, you have the winners, right? Those who you want to continue and give you the data that you need. Branches will absolutely do that for you. So in essence, Connect Branches allows you to create multiple custom completion end settings for your project. And we have 3 different action types for our branches. Number 1, we have the manual review action type, which allow you to reject or approve the submission for the full compensation amount. And we also have the automatic approval action type, which allows the submission to be approved right away, immediately, for the full compensation amount, right? So these 2 action types are meant to be used for the full end of survey experience, right? And the last one, last but certainly not least, is the partial completion action type, which I'd say probably is the main use case of branches. And that is a way for you to create screenouts with partial compensation up to the full completion payment amount for your survey. All right, so at this point, let's go ahead and we're going to jump right into a live demo. Now I just want to say that this demo will assume pre-use experience with Connect, using Connect, such as setting up and managing a project, as we're going to just focus solely on the functionality of branches. Okay, so let's see, oops. I'm going to slide this right in here. Okay, so here is the dashboard for Connect. And as you can see here, I've created a project already for us to go in this demo. It's called Wearable Devices. So we're going to go ahead and go to the Edit Project screen. I've already pre-filled all the required fields, such as the designated targets, right? We want 100 participants for this project, how much I'm paying them, so on and so forth. But as you scroll all the way down, we're going to get to the completion settings, where we find the ability to add branches. So by default, a Connect project will create 1 manual review branch, right? As a way to close the loop, so to speak. Connect participants start on Connect, right? They go to your survey, wherever that's hosted, and then they come back to Connect using this redirect URL or completion code, so we know that they did start and will end in Connect. simply add a branch, all we need to do is click on the Add Branch button, and we get this nice little pop-up here. So first and foremost, we want to add a label to the branch, right? Something descriptive to help us remember or identify exactly what we're trying to accomplish with this specific branch. So let's say, we're going to go ahead and create one of each type. Let's just call this test group B, right? Because our default one we've created, let's say it's test group A. We're going to choose the manual review submission branch type, right? Which again, this is the ability for you to, review your submission. I think you have 14 days to approve and reject it, and pay the participant the full completion compensation amount at the end of the survey. Okay, and we have here our set of completion settings, right? We have the redirect URL and the code. And if you notice, the code is exactly what you'd find in the URL. It's just a different mechanism in case you're not able to plug in a URL in the platform you're using to run your survey. You can always show the participant the code and they can manually submit it through Connect. All right, let's hit save. Okay, so now we've got our 2 branches here on our project. We could also rename the default one that was created. Let's just rename this to test group A. Okay, save. All right, so now we have our 2 full completion manual review branches, test group A and test group B, right? So we know we have these 2 URLs that we've created, and we're able to now identify which participant came through which URL and to see which group they belong to. All right, let's create another branch. This one will be for the approve and pay type. So let's call this test group C, right? Let's call this auto approve. All right, let's choose approve and pay. All right, just as I mentioned earlier, the approve and pay action type is an immediate approval, right? So if you don't care to review the data that's come through for the submission, you just want to pay the participant right away. You can use this action type. Here we have the ability for you to put an optional message that the participant will receive via notification once they've submitted their submission through this URL. I'll say thanks for your participation. Payment on the way, right? Because they're going to be auto-approved. Payment on the way. All right, let's hit save. Okay, so now we got our 3rd branch here with our set of URL and completion code, and then also just a way for you to verify the values that you set. We show you the message here, as well as a gentle reminder of what actually means to auto approve using this URL. Okay, and let's go ahead and create the last action type here, the partial complete. So this sample project that I created, I think I called a wearable device. So let's say we're targeting users who are, wearing Apple Watches, right? So we want to add a screener up front in our project that asks these questions, whether you wear Apple Watches or not. So we can create a partial completion branch that redirects non-Apple Watch users. So let's call this non-Apple Watch users. Let's choose the partial complete setting. And you see here that it opens up a new set of values that we need to fill in. All right, so in this case, the message is absolutely required. We do need to fill something in here for the participants. So let's just say, I'm sorry, you are not eligible, right? Because we want to screen them out, but pay them. Now, the estimated time in minutes, this is where, you're going to want to just figure out where this question will be placed in your survey and how long it would take to get to that point. I guess typically with some of these screeners are closer up front, so the amount of time would be a lot smaller. Currently, the minimum value that we have is 2 minutes, but that's something that we may adjust in the future to something smaller. All right, so let's put 2 minutes there. And the payment, we're going to put 25 cents, as it has to actually adhere to our pay per hour criteria, which is $7.50 an hour as a hard minimum, and our recommended minimum of $10 an hour, right? So again, if we were to modify the estimated time in minutes minimum, this payment could also would also adjust accordingly. So yeah, this is how much you'd be paying the participant for those that came through this particular branch URL. Now, this max partial submissions is an important value. Since everything in Connect is prepaid, we need to identify how many, partials, the maximum number of partials we're going to prepay for. right? I mean, we can't set it to an unlimited amount, or else, you know, it could be, you know, an infinite number of funds that be withdrawn from your account. So let's say for this one, let's set a value of 200, right? You know, once this maximum partial submission number gets reached, right, your project will pause automatically, and you know you'll get notified to let you know that you'll need to either add more partials to continue your project, or you can just, you know, end it right there and review your data, right? But this is a way for, you know, to control, to make sure that you are not overspending for this kind of project. All right, let's go ahead and hit save, and there we go. We have our final branch, right, with our set of redirect URL and code and all the various values that we've set in for review. Okay. If you notice on the right-hand side, we have our cost calculator. So anytime you use a partial complete, we'll just let you know that any unused submissions and fees will be refunded upon completion. So, you know, in this case, we put 200 participants for the number of partials, but we may not hit that, right? Everyone that's come through on this project may be eligible, right? Maybe Apple Watch users. So, you know, let's say 10 route out. So, you know, we'll refund you automatically with 190 once the project is completed and closed. And then you can expand this to see exactly how the costs break down based on the full submission URLs and the partials. Okay. So let's go ahead and save changes. We'll go back to our dashboard, and here we go. We see now our project's been updated, and we have the multiple approval types label here, which you can hover over, and you can see all the various branch types that you've created. Now down here, I have another project that I've set up that's already currently live and that has multiple approval types. This one has a manual review and has a partial complete. So you can see exactly how it is once this kind of project with partial completes is in the wild. Right, you see the number of partials that have come through. 135 have come through for this project, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and hit manage so we can see further statistics and metrics for this project. And I'll show you how you're going to be able to monitor your project with partials, right? So any of the non-partial branch types, the auto approve and the manual review, they will get counted towards the, you know, the full sample target, right? So that anything that's come through those that comes through those two URLs will be reflected in the pending, right, or the approved or rejected values here. But of course, anything that comes through the partial complete branches will be reflected here. You have this new metric for the number of partial completes, as we saw on the dashboard on the first screen. Some other metrics here: completion and bounce rates, some duration times. But what I want to highlight is for any partial that you've created, you'll see a breakdown here of how many have come through, as well as a total number, right? So here we had 2050 max partial submissions and 135 came out, right? Some additional metrics and how much you paid, how much you prepaid for that particular URL, that particular branch. Okay, and then down here in the manage participant section, you can see that all the partial completes are easily identified, right, in blue with the partial complete status. So you can easily figure out who's come through, which participants have come through your partial completes. And, you know, for every single one of those various action types, right, we generate a new completion code, if you recall. So you can easily filter out and see, you know, which participants came through which URL, right? This will help you identify the various groups if you're doing various testing groups, right? So just choose a code, say filter, and then automatically will filter out those participants. So a very easy way for you to manage your data. And this data is also available, the status and the completion code, when you download your CSV for processing. Lastly, I do want to show here how to add partials, right? Once the project is live with multiple approval types, the option to add partials is shown here, right? Now you don't have to wait until the maximum value is reached for you to add partials. You can do it at any time the project is live. Say you're monitoring your project and you don't want the flow of recruitment to slow down or to stop because it would pause. And let's say this number was getting closer to the max. You can go ahead and increase this count at any given time. So here, let's go ahead and add, add 100 more, right? We'll show you exactly how much you're going to have to pay for those additional partials. Click on add, and then your balance will get updated. And now the number of partials have been increased to 2150. Okay, so a couple implementation notes, just wanted to highlight, right, that Connect Branches, it does work with any third-party platform that has decision logic, right, whether it's, I don't know, SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics. Anytime you can do any kind of workflow or decision making there, and it supports URLs, you can plug those URLs in the survey, and so they'll redirect back to Connect accordingly. And also, as I've shown you before, you can execute them via redirect, which is the default method, or by completion code. Maybe using a platform that doesn't support redirects, just put in the custom completion code for that specific branch and have your participants come back to Connect and manually plug that in. Okay, so I am going to open up the floor for some Q&A. If you want to just raise your hand using the hand raise utility up in the top browser, or you can unmute your mic and just ask your question. Yep, now's the time to do so. We'll kind of open up the floor for 5 to 10 minutes for any Q&A.
Okay, I have a question about the partial complete. When we sort of branch people into partial complete, do those people do I need to create another survey on Qualtrics, or like how does that happen? So for example, usually what I would do is like create a survey on Qualtrics, have the screener question up front, and if the person says no on the screener question, you end the survey for them then and there, and then they go ahead. So the partial complete automatically detects that the person in the survey did not complete the screener survey. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so no, that's a good question. So thank you for your question. So, so with Connect, the only thing that we don't, as part of our terms, we don't allow for, non-compensated termination like screeners, right? Like everyone who participates in Connect will have to get compensated in some form or fashion, right? So that's kind of why we created the partial complete branch. So on Qualtrics, you could ask that survey question, right? The screener question on Qualtrics, but you would have to, I believe, create another like an end of survey block there, where you can plug in that, hey, if participant answers, let's say yes to this question, then have them go to this block, and in that block you would show them your termination message or whatever that is, and have that redirect back to Connect with that partial completion branch. So that way they'll be able to compensate it for the time that they've taken right on your project. Does that answer your question, Manuel?
Yeah, so let me restate it, see if I actually understood. So let's say in Qualtrics, I set up the branch so that person who says no on the screener survey, it ends the survey there. So at the end of survey block, I just put in the partial complete redirect link. So that would Connect would then automatically detect them as partial. Yes. Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. Great. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for your question. Anyone else have any questions?
There's some questions in the chat, Charles. I can read them off to you.
Okay, thank you.
One of them is the minimal time for partial completes 2 minutes?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so currently it is 2 minutes, right? And we've had branches out for some time. And so we're kind of analyzing and seeing what makes sense here. So we may be reducing that down to about a minute, in the near future. So to answer your question, as it currently stands, it's just 2 minutes, right? I think one of the reasons why we didn't want to make that number too small initially was we wanted to make sure that it was used properly and it wasn't just a way to to take advantage of the system, so to speak. So, but yeah, so currently the answer is yes, and at some point that will probably change to something smaller. David, you may have gone over this, but what happens if you exceed the maximum number of partial completes? Okay, yes. So if the maximum number of partial completes gets exceeded, or actually when it reaches, your project will automatically be put in a pause status, right? You as the researcher owner, as the project owner, will get notified that, hey, your project is paused due to the maximum number of partials being reached. So please go back into the platform and add more partials to continue your project. So yeah, that's exactly just what happens there. Okay, yeah, so I see a comment here from JW U8, yeah, many participants got screened out after one question, got confused and rated my survey 1 star, even they get paid. Yeah, so the feedback system is something that we're actually looking to revamp a little bit because of the partials, right? We do understand that sometimes um, participants aren't all too happy with like some of the compensation amounts that they get, even with the partial completion settings in place, branch. So that's something that we may be tweaking as well, just kind of how we weigh certain types of feedback that come through the system.
I have something that might be good to go over for cases of researchers that might not want to pay for failed attention checks. So I know that you mentioned in the beginning that you can pay if there's a failed attention check, but sometimes that's not always the case, and we obviously don't want somebody paying for a low quality participant. So what would you recommend they set up in that case?
Yeah, it's always been kind of a tricky question, a tricky scenario as we've experienced in the past, right? Teresa, that typically, right, with attention checks, the researcher, I guess, has every right to reject the participant if the quality, if that's an indication of quality that isn't satisfactory for that participant, right? So what I just kind of alluded to at the beginning about the unique and complex screening, right? So I think it's in addition to attention checks, right? Where it may be attention checks plus other permutations or other combinations, where it's not just the metric of an attention check that allows you to, let's say, reject or approve a participant, where, yeah, the data might come through, the attention check it may have been failed for whatever reason, but the data quality was actually pretty good, but you had other variables that kind of that you're scoring the participant based on that. I think that's where having a partial branch would help, right? Because you can set a compensation value there that is not quite the full amount, right? So you don't necessarily want to reject the participant and not compensate them for anything, right? Because we also have the ability to do reject and pay, where you could reject the participant and pay them some kind of bonus, right? But with every rejection affects the quality score for that participant, right? And we have this community of participants and researchers who are, who are fair to each other. So I think at least setting up the partial complete won't ding the participant score as much as a full rejection, right? If at all, and still allows you to compensate them for a small amount, right? So yeah, so I think in summary, I think just to answer that question, I would say it's definitely the attention check plus some other permutations and other, I guess, variables in your study that you are also weighing to see if you want to reject the participant. And that's something that we're going to, measure over time and see usage of Connect branches to see how we can adjust that to help further, add maybe clarification or, a solution to this kind of scenario that, we do see come up from time to time. Okay, I see another question here from Jay. Do we have to pay even when a participant fails the eligibility question and is blocked? So the eligibility question. So at any time you are running a project on Connect and you want to put some kind of screener, I guess the eligibility question on your project on, let's say, Qualtrics, they do have to, you do have to pay them, right? Like that is part of our terms where you have to compensate people for the time they've taken on the project, right? Now that's separate from like a hard rejection, right? A hard rejection is they've given you data and it's just not what you're looking for, right? There's no true eligibility. There's no screener aspect to that part of your survey. So yes, you do have to pay them. Now, when you say it's blocked, not quite sure what you mean by that, but in our system, right, there are people who may identify as low quality at some point in Connect, and we do block them. And anyone who is blocked, right, you wouldn't have to compensate them, right, because they're out of the system at that point, right? But for anyone that you're looking to screen, right, maybe through an eligibility question in your project, yes, you would have to compensate them with the partial complete range. Oh, okay. Yes. So yeah, a screening question at the front of the survey. Yeah. So if you're running it through Connect and you're putting a screening question, and you have to use a partial branch, right? A partial complete branch to compensate them for the time that they've taken, right? For your project. Okay. So in conclusion, if at any time you want to use branches, especially for niche populations and complex screening, and I do want to highlight the niche populations. You know, we have demographic targeting on Connect. We have over 200 qualification questions, so we continually add them. We continually add new questions every week. However, you know, the one you're looking to target may not be there. You may be in a time crunch. And again, maybe it's super niche, right? So I think branches is definitely the way to go in being able to screen and find those particular populations that you are looking to recruit for your project. We also have on our website a tutorial article right on our knowledge base, which has a lot of the points that I had went over in today's webinar. We also have a video that we put there that goes into detail as well of setting up your branches for your project. You can access it directly with our bit.ly link, bit.ly/brancheskb. That'll take you directly there. And also want to remind you that of our promotion, right, for academic and nonprofit researchers of 10 days of no fees from the launch of your first study. You know, if you're a new user and you're an academic or a nonprofit organization, you can enjoy 10 days of absolutely no additional costs other than what you're paying to the participant from the launch of your first study, right? We understand that IRBs may take time, so go ahead, sign up, create your project, set up all your branches, and take your time, right? The moment you launch, it's when the 10 days of no fees start. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at charles.jamerlan@cloudresearch.com, as well as to our incredible support team here at CloudResearch at support@cloudresearch.com. And I want to personally thank you all for your time today. And I look forward to seeing you all in future webinars.